So we have to, when we talk about the spread of ticks, of course, talk about the spread of cases. So this is a map of cases, 1 dot per case from 1996. And basically, Lyme disease was more or less centered around the Northeast and the coast, I guess, the mid-Atlantic coast. And so we fast forward to 2018, and we go from not so many to a lot more. I mean, in the first map, there's hardly anything in western and central Pennsylvania, certainly in western and central New York. And by the second map, which is 2018, we're seeing a lot more cases of Lyme disease. And that's reflective of ticks moving north, ticks moving west. But there's something I have to tell you about the maps and about the way we count Lyme disease. So that map purports to show about 30,000 cases of Lyme disease. That's about what we had in 2018. But you'll notice that Massachusetts doesn't seem to have any cases of Lyme disease whatever. There's just that kind of rectangular block there. And basically the CDC has said that it wasn't accepting Massachusetts numbers because it didn't like the way it was counting Lyme disease. It doesn't like the way New York State counts Lyme disease either because county health departments are so overwhelmed with Lyme disease cases that they extrapolate. They estimate how many cases we have. So there's a big difference between what the CDC puts out there and says we have in terms of cases and what we really have. So in 2018, CDC said we had about 36,000. Just those two states, Massachusetts and New York, the cases that were rejected, brings it more up to about 43,000 or so. But there's another qualifier here. And that is, a few years ago, the CDC did a study of insurance records. They wanted to see how many claims were filed for Lyme disease. And lo and behold, they found that there were a lot more claims for Lyme disease than they were recording in cases of Lyme disease. So they now say that there are 10 cases of Lyme disease for every one that's reported. So now we're multiplying this by 10. We are greater than 430,000, and we're probably more on the order of 500,000. Places like North Carolina, you can see that right there is North Carolina. It doesn't have many cases of Lyme disease. They recently did a study of insurance records, and North Carolina was 4th on the list of states in terms of the number of claims. So we don't really have a handle on it, is the long and short of it. And numbers are important, as you'll find out later. Okay, we know that the climate has changed in New York. We've seen it in our own lifetimes. And these are some of the ways that climate has changed. It's up 2.4%. 2.4 degrees, since 1970. We have these heavy rain events much more frequently, up 70%, including hurricanes. Sea level, up a foot since 1900. Spring actually begins earlier. Bees, birds, I love this one, and fish have changed. Off the coast of New York, stocks of fish, what ones there are left, are actually moving north. They stay in certain places, but they're further north. Just as ticks are moving north, so are our fish. Bees begin their business earlier. Birds are hatching in different places from where they did before. And by the way, ticks are really happy. There are many places for them to live, to thrive, many more places to lay eggs and have babies. And this is another way that we can see the progression and the movement of ticks in New York, where we are right now. And what you'll see from this is that in the western New York, we saw a 500% increase in Lyme disease cases in just a 5-year period. Central New York, about a 300% increase, a couple of 100% up the north of the Hudson Valley and in central and eastern New York. So this shows us something is going on, that ticks are moving north, that they're also moving west into more territory. What's also interesting about this, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later, is that Lyme disease in Long Island is actually going down. Something may be going on there that I want to tell you about. So we see this northward migration. They're expanding geographically. They're enjoying the outdoors longer. We talked about spring being a week early. This means, in the scheme of things, that ticks go from one life stage to the next faster sometimes. They live about 2 years, but that's actually shortening because they can get to, from the first stage of life to the second, they have actually 3 stages, the larval, the nymphal, and the adult. So they have more opportunity to feed, to move to the next stage in life. They call it accelerated phenology. And this is important because it means they get to their ultimate destination faster. They get to fulfill their life's mission and procreate. And this is sort of an example of what I'm talking about here. This is a picture of a fully engorged black-legged tick that was pulled off a dog on New Year's Day of this year. These things are happening now. All you need is a little bit of balmy weather, maybe 40, 45 degrees. And if there's no snow or ice cover, a tick will just climb out of the leaf litter and climb up the nearest bit of grass, and maybe there'll be a passing dog, as there was in this case. Now that tick might have died. There's obviously a great mortality level among ticks, but instead that tick had that last blood meal, had the opportunity to mate, and would have gone on, if not captured by this pet owner, to lay eggs. So there's just more opportunities because it's warmer out.